Well, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. As you know, we are doing this series along with Doug here, who's obviously favouring me.
He is.
He's only flesh and blood.
Like I said, someone had to, didn't he?
Rude.
I seem to be bursting out of my shirt. I don't know about that. Oh, it's very tight, isn't it?
Right, I like it. Anyway, should we get on point? Yes. So we're here doing a series of bit of light relief for all our HR community, because we recognise that it is an incredibly, shall I put my teeth in?
Put your teeth in and get that sentence.
I'm just queuing us up for what we're going to talk about, actually. But
wow, it segues quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah. We want to pick a topic each time to help our HR community, recognising that you've got really tricky, difficult jobs at the moment, and we're here to sort of try and help with that and bring a bit of light relief if we possibly can. And we pick a different topic every time. And today, we're going to talk about neurodiversity.
Do we need to talk about the fact that we've moved places again, but you like to sit in the middle?
Well, I do.
Piggy in the middle.
She took my middle slot.
She loved it. She loves the middle.
Stolen.
Yeah.
Right in front of your eyes. Snatched.
Nipped the toilet and there it was gone.
There she was in the middle of the sofa again. Centre of the camera. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah.
Shall I start with some stats?
Oh, God.
You like a stat,
Come on.
yourselves.
Oh, we're going to, of course.
Yeah,
should we
Doug, we've got
I'm Kelly. No,
You're Kelly.
you're Jordan.
Am I Jeanette?
You're Nettie today.
Oh, I'm Nettie today. Excellent. Nettie Ramsden. Here I am. Right.
Perfect.
Jordan Barry Bayliss.
Kelly York.
Lovely. Right,
Perfect.
so let's talk about neurodiversity. Are you going to start with some stats?
I am, yeah,
Excellent.
I am. And
We
I
love a
think,
stat. She loves the stats. She's
I
always
do
got
love
stats,
the
hasn't she?
stats,
She
I do.
pulls them off.
I think it just brings
It's like a
things to
computer,
life
aren't
for us, which is why I've always got my notes.
I like the branded notes.
Was that? By the way, for those of you who are watching this for the first time, if we do a gratuitous plug of our businesses, then we do get a gratuitous ding. So, but well done for that. The Curve Group.
Yeah, well done.
So, with 1 in 5 people now being diagnosed as neurodiverse, 40% of which are generally unemployed, and then stats are really stark. They're getting worse and worse. I keep a really close eye on this because this is something that's very close to my own heart.
Are you going to tell us about that as well?
I will do, yeah. I'll tell you
important.
about that. And then the even more worrying thing, those people that are actually in employment struggle to actually talk about their needs to their managers and their business because they feel uncomfortable about it. And I think that's actually even worse. So I think there's
double whammy.
It is, absolutely. And I have a 15-year-old daughter who is autistic. She's battling her way through upper school at the moment. Made a lot of reasonable adjustments. She's a lot happier. But actually my biggest fear at the moment is when she starts to enter the workplace. I feel like we have a responsibility as HR professionals to really change that them stats, really,
And I think beyond, beyond HR, it's leaders. I remember, and it's a bit of a silly example, but it's relevant to me. The business that I was involved with during the pandemic, we won an award for how we equipped leaders to prepare them in how to interact differently with their employees, and it was actually around the mental health taboo. And for me, so we spent a lot of time and a lot of effort on how do we build this muscle within leaders in a really authentic way, so that it doesn't feel like they've read a textbook, but they can actually connect with the people. And as a result of that, I mean, we got. Well, actually, that was part of it. We got the highest engagement scores of any organisation moving to Gallup in its first year, which was enormous. Absolutely. And I think, Kelly, this is the same thing. I think leaders don't know what they don't know. And I think we have a massive responsibility to make them comfortable and confident. I think they're the two words that I'd use around, because it's so important, isn't it? And I think I was involved in a startup probably about 5 or 6 years ago. It was probably one of the most humbling experiences for me in having a predominantly neurodiverse developer group. And thrown away all of my preconceived ideas as a leader, as a senior leader on, well, you should be in the office at this time and you work that, all of those things that we do, we operate within those frameworks. And actually, they work really late at night, they didn't come in before 10, most of the time they wanted to work at home. And
so
it was
you adjust your management style to accommodate that, right?
But it was just such a great learning experience, and I
absolutely.
really enjoyed it. And as a result of that, I came out feeling that I was much better equipped to deal with it, to relate to that group, to understand what they need, without it being seen as through through this normal lens of all employees want this. And it goes back to your point, Kelly, about everyone wanting this bespoke and this unique employee experience.
And businesses that don't see neurodiversity as an asset are going to get left behind as well. There's a huge shortage of talent within the globe at the moment, everywhere globally, and actually we're missing out on what I said earlier, 40% of very talented individuals that can, produce some exceptional work if managed in the correct way. And I think that's really critical for the future as well for us.
Quite interestingly, so many of you who know me do know that I am dyslexic, and had a terrible time at school really, but personality got me through.
Personality and jewellery. Personality and very good jewellery.
Huge amount of therapy, but I've gone through it. And actually, this whole industry of recruitment and HR, I think that would deserve a ding. Well done. We'll let you do a ding for the first time.
Do a ding.
Is that it actually attracts a huge amount of dyslexic people because they're very, very people orientated. So, the whole HR community will probably understand and empathise with me on that point particularly. And
I wonder if actually there's a need for them to be more people orientated in order to survive. That's a survival mechanism, isn't it? I remember as a I've talked about this openly as well, not in neurodiversity, but I stood out like a sore thumb. I was so different. I grew up in a rural town in Lancashire, and my only way of, that's why I ended up doing psychology and all this kind of stuff, because it was that was the way that I fitted in, was to understand and observe people. It's exactly the same thing. That's what you're saying, isn't it? It's about, I feel so ostracised by my neurodiversity. The only way I can connect and feel part of something is by having really good people skills.
And you had the ability, the two of you, to carve your own way in that situation, whereas there is people with, neurodiversity that don't necessarily aren't equipped to do that in the same way. So we have a responsibility as a community to support that, because it's not a write-off, is it? There's some brilliant skills within there.
Absolutely, and tapping into that is really important. But I think, let's be really honest, I think a lot of organisations and their people agenda are extremely tokenistic. It's a bit like the diversity card. Oh, we're doing this, we're doing that. But unless it's actually authentic and it's felt and people know how to deal with it, it's just words on a page. It's just lip service. And I think you're absolutely right. I think, there's some wonderful skills in neurodiversity. I mean, like the capacity to synthesize multiple data sets at speed, the memory thing, all of those types of things.
Work and instruct AI is another big skill that they have, and that's the future, right?
We've got to get this right. We have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what was, when I was looking through these things, I think the scariest bit is the fact that they can't, as it stands, there's communities that can't talk to their managers. Is there any ideas why that is? What do you think where are those barriers really?
Yeah, you're looking at me there. Was that a cue? No, you just ducked that question entirely, didn't you? And then she kind of went like this. I can.
That looked a little bit difficult, and I was still processing in my dyslexic way, but I knew you'd have an opinion.
Yeah, well, I do, don't I? Well, as my mum famously says, I could talk a glass eye to sleep. So yeah, I'll take that feedback in the spirit that it's meant. I think let's be really honest. If you are neurodiverse, there is a comfort in speaking to someone who is neurodiverse themselves, or at least has an affinity and an understanding of it. And let's be really honest, how many organisations do we know that have invested in equipping their leaders and managers with understanding neurodiversity? So that's why. And also, if you feel already ostracised and on the periphery of a community, which is your peer group or it's your team, then you feel even more ostracised having to talk about it. Yeah. And so I think
it's the removal of the stigma and the stereotypes.
And there's so much stigma.
And that is the challenge. And I've been to quite a lot of events recently where they've talked about kind of why do you need to have a diagnosis to have reasonable adjustments at work? We are all entitled to reasonable adjustments to get the best out of our employment. And therefore, why are we so restrictive as a business? You get an occupational health referral, you have to go through all that process, then you get the reasonable adjustment. And it doesn't really...
It's so clunky and mechanical.
It's so clunky. And it's
there's a person at the end of that process.
Yeah.
We're not processes, are we? We're people.
We need more effectiveness around just being able to transition and actually apply, these roles differently to individuals.
So in terms of advice though, because you did give me some quite strong advice around this, is that it's about creating an environment where people do feel comfortable
and safe,
about talking and safe about it.
Psychological safety is a big thing, isn't it?
But then really looking at the job role, looking at the person, understanding whether reasonable adjustments can be made, because obviously people do go to work in order to perform, they have a job to do, but it's about making the reasonable adjustments for them so that they can be super successful in their role, and that is where you start getting the most out of people and actually then performing absolutely brilliantly, and that's where you create the engagement and the loyalty to you as an employer. And it's about sort of saying that this is almost a good thing, as opposed to seeing it as a bad thing and something that's not discussed openly. And that have I gone on long enough? That was quite a long speech for me.
No, I think you're right, and I think all of these systems. I can't speak. All of these. I know we've struggled with our teeth today, haven't we? I'll put them all in. It's a bit of feedback.
Do you want to borrow
Sort
mine?
your teeth out for the next session. I do think that we've got to remember that most of these systems that people operate in within organisations are designed for the masses. So anything that's different is struggling at the moment. And also, we talked about profit at the expense of everything. So we're investing less in catering for these marginalised or these minority groups of people. We do all the slogans, we wonder, we think going out hiring a load of diverse candidates is going to happen, for example, it's going to help, and then we plonk them into a system that's completely configured for the majority of white people, and then we wonder why they don't work, and then these people leave. It's the same with neurodiversity. So I think
it's the individuality
it's
generally.
Exactly
it's
right,
a lot
Kelly.
Of the theme of the stuff we're talking about. It's actually treating your employees as the individuals that they are.
As a person.
As an individual, as a person. I think it's really... There's a lot of interesting information around repurposing roles as well. So where you find actually we're not all good at everything, and a role is quite often got multiple skills required to deliver that one vacancy. Actually, why are you not having several people to deliver that vacancy, but they do a lot more of that particular bit that they're good at? So repurposing how you go to market with your vacancies and really play on people's strengths so you increase that productivity points
back
as well.
to the flexibility point, aren't we?
And we're also back to team performance. I mean, it's really interesting. A lot of the work that I do with senior teams is around oh, what a great plug. Is around, if you're sat in a group of people, senior team, senior peer group, and you don't know, one, they need to be clear on the individual contribution, the skills that you bring, but also you need to be clear on theirs. That's what high performance is about. So I agree with you, Kelly. It's about that playing to strengths. And I think far too, organisations that are still focusing on, Jeanette, you've got 2 development areas this year in your PDP and I want you to work on those. That's just crap. Strength-based organisations that drive performance based on what your unique skills are.
Skills-based hiring, it's all of
really
those
important.
things, isn't it? But it's a big shift, and again,
it is a big shift.
Bringing it back to our HR community, are expected to have the answers to all these things, and actually there's so much to learn and digest, and actually make sure you're doing the right thing so you're not isolating people even further.
But let's be really honest, so much for HR to learn to design a policy so leaders can follow it. This isn't a policy, we're talking about people.
Yeah, we are.
And it's the difference between the leader that walks in every day and they know what you did at the weekend, they asked you what you did, they know your wife's name, your husband's name, your kid's name, they know where you live, to the person that comes in and doesn't say anything to you. It's the same principle. It's all down to leadership capability, because even a good leader, without the knowledge of what neurodiversity actually means, has the skill set to connect with someone and make them feel comfortable. It's not rocket science. I think a lot of we are in danger here of over-engineering what's actually required, and I think it's just that level of humanity and being able to connect with people.
Humanity and rolling it through the business. It's the same thing, isn't it? It's
kindness,
all about ownership and
curiosity, listening. asking the right questions.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very good. So, do you
Is that a
feel
wrap?
a bit more informed?
I do feel informed, but I think there's a lot more to talk about. I'd be really interested to hear from some of our listeners on their, what they're grappling with and what's going on for them within their organisations. I don't think this is anywhere on the agenda.
And how they're tackling it as well, if they're doing anything at the moment.
Yeah, I think
is
we're talking a lot about neurodiversity in the external market, but I don't know how much of this is percolating into corporate culture at the moment.
It feels like it's a lot of events-led information at the moment that's not actually
Get that shopping list out, tick.
So
And I think HR people have got they're still struggling with diversity, never mind neurodiversity.
Well, and no budget to do it with.
And age discrimination, and it's just yet another topic that they're having to sort of grapple with, and it's
and expected to be the expert in.
Yeah, expected to be an expert, but actually, I think the practical advice is that see it as a positive. It's well documented that we're shortage of talent, and really embrace this in a real practical way, and you will be a hero in your own organisation, quite frankly.
Use it to kind of catapult your business,
which
as well.
gives me a bit of light relief.
It does.
I'm glad you feel like that, because that was quite a touchy subject, isn't it? Or it's a bit more. It's nuanced, and I think it's really important that it's talked about empathetically and understood. Yeah. And I think it's that whole empathy piece for me about, do you actually have an interest in understanding what this means, and talking to someone about their experience. So tell me, I don't know anything about your neurodiversity. What does that mean for you? What do you need? I mean, for God's sake, this is like really simple management 101 for me.
It is.
So the fact that HR is expected to provide some textbook on this is how, and a policy on it. I mean, it's not really about a policy, is it? It's about, can you have a conversation with someone?
Absolutely.
Exactly. I 100% agree.
Yeah, well done, Jeanette. You did really well today. And I love you, necklace.
That wasn't a condescending.
I love this. This is big.
I'm
Is
that
that a monocle?
You.
That's a monocle. She can see to the moon with that. She can actually see to the moon.
I can see you.
You saw me coming, didn't you? I can go take my tight shirt off now.
I'm going to wrap it up for us all. Thank you very much today. Bye-bye.
See you next time.